Recording started. Okay, go ahead.
I let you start the recording. I open the Q&A, or you tell me if there are some questions.
Yeah.
Yes, I will have a look at the Q&A and otherwise at the end.
Okay, perfect.
Very happy to have you here once again. I think another speaker that we did not need to present.
Thank you.
So please.
So let's start directly. So the idea was, can we run an application that was built and compiled for Oracle? Can we run it if we move to Postgres? So this is where I start. I have installed just before an Oracle database, just Oracle XC. Let me show you where the installation from the RPM was. Yeah, this is there. So Oracle XC, the free version. And I have installed Swingbench, this application written in Java that connects to the Oracle database and runs, selects, and DML and everything to simulate an application. And it's all Java code, and there are two versions, one that is only Java calling SQL and one that calls PL SQL with procedures in a database. So it's quite representative of an application that has been written to run on Oracle. And now let me explain what I will try to achieve, what was my goal initially when I started with this idea. So I have an XC database there. I have an application. I will take the icon with the Swingbench application, which connects with JDBC, but it could be the same with OCI. I will put that in black and I will write JDBC, OCI, whatever, and it connects and runs there. Now I want to move to Postgres, and my idea is that probably if I move to Postgres, I will rewrite the application. But the idea is that maybe I want to start just to rewrite part of the application, the most critical, and still use the old application for all the use cases that are not critical. So I have a Postgres database, and what I want to do is simply connect to the Postgres database, same application from Java and without even recompiling. So I want to be fully SQL compatible and using the same wire protocol. And before that, I need to put the data there. So the idea is that I empty this database. If I set the background, yeah, I will put that sorry, I will put that to show that it is half empty because the database is still there, but I will move data from there and to there. And the idea will be to use Foreign Data Wrapper there, but there are many tools if it's only to move the data. Let me just show you what I will use there. Foreign Data Wrapper. And we will start with that. Put all data there, and then we will see how the application can behave on that. So before that, I will just run the application while it is running on Oracle, just to show you how it looks, the number of transactions per second. But here I've just selected one use case that is probably the fastest one, transaction per minute, transaction per second. This is running from the Java to Oracle XC. I cancel this run and I install Postgres from, I need the right RPMs. I'm going fast on those steps because that's not the goal and we have only 30 minutes. This is just installing Postgres on this machine. And I will create a Postgres database. This is fast. It's not like creating an Oracle database. It's quite lightweight. And I will install the Foreign Data Wrapper. Foreign Data Wrapper is the equivalent of DB links. And this is an extension to connect to Oracle. So basically, if I come back to my whiteboard, I move data in this way, but it means that I have here the Oracle Foreign Data Wrapper that will connect to Oracle. So Oracle client, you need an Oracle client there. Because I'm on the same machine, I will use the one from Oracle XC, but you just need the Oracle client there to connect through the Foreign Data Wrapper. And then I connect to the Postgres database. And this is where I declare the extension, Oracle Foreign Data Wrapper. And I create server, which is like defining the DB link. You see, I define that I will connect there. To make things clear, I will put that there. Sorry, the copy paste didn't work, so I will not do that. Yeah, I just wanted to show, because you need to know in which way the connections are working. So that's the connection that will be used there. And I have convenient command to map a user, a Postgres user to the Oracle user. And I will create a schema where I import the table. This only imports the metadata to create links to them. Okay, and then I will import the data. So exactly following this blue line, I want to put all the tables there. And not only the table, actually, everything that has a state must be imported there. I want to use Oracle XC only on the stateless gateway, because my idea is that I cannot connect directly from an Oracle client to the Postgres database. So my idea there is to connect to XC, and from there, go there using a gateway that we will see. Which means that here I can have views, I can have stored procedures, I can have everything that doesn't have a state, but not the tables and not the sequences. And then I will start, because there is one sequence in this application. Of course, you need to know a bit about the application that you want to move. So I'm just checking the maximum number in the logging table, which is the one that uses a sequence. And I will create on Postgres a table for that with the equivalent of a sequence, auto-generated key. And I insert into this table in Postgres from the one that I see through the Foreign Data Wrapper. So here I am reading the rows from there, inserting them in the Postgres table. And I will do that for all the tables. So let me just copy paste quickly all the create statements for the table and it will run while I explain the remaining. Those are just the DDL from my table, but you may want to change, add columns in the other place. I've just taken the same DDL from there. So this is currently running, which I will put there with dots. And then how will I do that? First, I will install there the ODBC driver, because I will connect through ODBC. And then I will add heterogeneous services, which make me able to connect from Oracle XC via DB links to Postgres. So basically, I will add, sorry for that. I will add something that looks like a listener there, which is actually a listener that will be the gateway. And the idea will be to connect through that. Let me check where we are there. It's still running. So I start to explain a bit more the things. So here I will connect to XC to synonyms that will use data by EasyLink to the Oracle Gateway. Let me write here Oracle Gateway for ODBC. It's the only one that is free. There are some gateways that are specific to some RDBMS, but this one is free. I'm using only 3 components that comes with Oracle XC there. So that's called Heterogenous Services, the fact that I can run transactions through the billings to other databases than Oracle, and it connects to ODBC. This will run actually in a listener. So I will have a listener for that and DB links to them. So that's basically the summary of the components I will need to install there. And if it's still running, I will continue to explain what I will do. Of course, I will have some things that will be different, some SQL statement that will not be recognized. And that means that I will need a bit of magic, something to rewrite. And we will see what is this magic at this point. To be clear, I don't want to rewrite anything on this application to run in this way, because this is only temporary. I mean, I've probably rewritten the most critical use cases. For example, if it's an order entry application, taking orders, I've rewritten that with modern architecture, microservices on open source database. And then probably I have already part of my application that is running directly connecting to Postgres, because this is where I have all data. But I want to start with that, or at least test that. But I probably have a few use cases that are not used a lot, and I just don't want to rewrite them for the moment. So I want to use the old application, but I don't want to put any effort on that because this is temporary. The goal is to do that without any effort. So if I have something to rewrite, recompile, that's not good. This is why I will need to translate a few things. If the things are in PL SQL, for example, I can rewrite the procedure to adapt them. But if the things come from the application, I will use the SQL Translation Framework that can change the queries to make them compatible with this gateway. So this has run. So there I have all my data on Postgres, nothing, only stateless things on the upper part. And this is where I will see the configuration for all that. So I have ODBC. And let me just show you the definition in this file odbc.ini, where I just defined the connection to the Postgres database. I'm going fast because the goal is just to show the components. Of course, in real cases, you may define them differently. Then, to connect to this ODBC, I need to configure the heterogeneous services, so this thing in the middle. And for this, I have a configuration file in Oracle Heterogeneous Service, which is there in Oracle XC. And I define how to connect to this ODBC. So the library and the information to connect to that. Okay. Then I need another component because this is just a file. This will run through a listener. So I'm adding a listener there with an endpoint. I'm listening on this port. And this runs the database gateway for ODBC, the code that will connect to Postgres. So this is the definition of my listener. Let me check that. I have the listener, DB link, and in the middle, I will put TNS names, TNS names.oa entry, which I'm doing there just to make things simple. So first, let's start the listener. The listener is there and listening like if it was a database. So the TNS entry is just referencing this port with a SID. That is what I have defined in the listener. I can connect I probably forgot one step. And as we don't have a lot of time, I will not be able. Let me check if the listener has started. I'm just repeating what has worked 10 times, but I probably forgot something somewhere, which, okay. Then I will just show you the different commands because we have 2 minutes. I have no idea why I cannot connect there because my database was up, the listener is up, and I'm connecting there. I will just show you in theory how it should work, which is not a big problem because we don't have time for the whole demo. But basically, the creation of the database link will just create a database link connecting to this user using the TNS names that I've defined there. So I'm correcting it, but we have seen that the connection doesn't work. Actually, it works from there. So that was my environment. Okay, so this works. I've created the database link and I'm running a query from the Oracle exit, so from Oracle, and I query a view on Postgres, which is the equivalent of the VDollar session view, and then I see my query. There are some traces that I can check, but we will not go there. So for the moment, I have all the wires there with the database link, except that this application will read tables that I will define as synonyms or views through the database link. And this is what I will do there. And creating a bunch of synonyms. You can see that the execution plan shows that it goes to remote, but that's not that's usual with DB links. I mean, that's not specific. And I'm there. I have everything there because I have defined here the synonyms. I will put that with in orange, for example. And then I can run the application and I will run Swingbench. And cross the finger, but I see some errors. Yeah, which makes sense because I mentioned that I had a sequence and now I use an auto-incremented key on Postgres side. So the code that calls the sequence, which I can see here, I just grabbing the source to go faster. This is what the application does at the Java application. Values log on sec next val. And this is sent directly to Postgres, and Postgres doesn't understand that because that's not the right way to use a sequence in Postgres. And this is where I will need some magic. And this magic will be SQL Translation Framework. And write smaller that. So that's the magic I will use there. It's a translation layer where you can tell basically to Oracle, when you see the statement, just use this statement, another one. And I will show you how I define it. I go fast. The important thing is just the call to the register SQL translation. So here it is. I define a profile because I can have different translation profiles. And I just say, when you see this insert, which is exactly what my Java application is sending, when you see this, you run this one. Here, I don't put anything in the logon ID because I have an octo incremented key on the Postgres side. And you need to set a few events to get that working well. And then I put all that in a logon trigger. Can check the trace if I need it later. And that's the way I solve the problem with calling the sequence because it's implemented differently. And to go faster, I just show you what I will change as well. I had an error also about a view that is invalid. And it is invalid because there is a long somewhere in when I imported the data. And if I look at the metadata of the product view there through the DB link through the gateway, you can see that the view has some functions and on tables that have a long. I don't know why Swingbench is using those translations and things like that, but that's not possible. And I will just change the things. I'm changing here the definition on the Postgres side so that when visible by through the gateway, it's not a long, but a varchar, so that depends on the size. And there is something else where I'm going fast. This translation with funny things using the national language functions doesn't work like that. I just removed them just to make this quicker. So you may have a few things to do, but here I selected from the view and now it works, which means that now I should be able to run, just removing the trace in case I need it. I should be able to run Swingbench there without any error. We will see there is still some errors. Yeah, the trunk function. So there are a few things to fix. And if I want to fix them, let me see, we have 6 minutes, so just going fast. I had to do a few translations to get it working. But those things are things that I can do without even touching to the application. I just run it, see an error, get in the trace. I will show you maybe the trace. The trace was there. That's the kind of trace that you have when you have an error. And then you try to find how to translate it to be understandable by the Postgres side. And now running this, and this works. So this is the client side thing. And if we have 2 minutes at the end, but I prefer to take some questions if you have questions. But I've run also the same with the server side, which is calling a package on Oracle. So where there is a package there, and then the call to the package doesn't change. And then the magic will not be the SQL Translation Framework, but on the package, I can change everything. It is PL SQL, so I can change it. But remember, the goal is not to put a lot of effort to go this way. This way is there to easily let you use the old application without a lot of effort, right? So let me check the question for that. Checking just that it runs, of course. The performance is not the same. Transaction per minute is really slow. There are things to optimize, but I will come back to that later. First of all, I've been working with Oracle and didn't know about the possible setup. Now the question, can you please recommend more documents to read? Yeah, the documents, we will see that, and I will probably write a blog post to reference all that. You can follow my LinkedIn, you can follow my Twitter, and I will put more things. It's kind of starting to look at the ideas that can help in that. It's not a full solution. And yeah, I mentioned the performance, it's slow, but the really nice thing is that all these parts, let me put the questions apart, all these parts, which I will highlight with, let's say, a green box. So all this, if I can put that transparent, it will be much better. And yeah, all this part that is highlighted, I'm sure I can put some transparency. Yeah, this is what I wanted to do, and put it behind. Yeah, this is stateless. That's the important thing, because this is my application. Here I may have some code and metadata, but I don't have any table storing data. I don't have any sequence. Maybe the temporary table, if there are some temporary tables used, maybe I can leave them that, but this is stateless. All stateful information is there, which means that we have an easy way to improve the performance. If it's stateless, I can duplicate another instance of the application. So that's already something that we know we can do. But Oracle XC is free. I can run another one on another container, Kubernetes, maybe another pod. The gateway, I can use the same or another one. So let me put many Oracle XC there to scale, because XC is limited in memory and in CPU. But if you run many of them, it's kind of possible. You can run multiple things. The only things that cannot scale behind is the Postgres one. So this can also connect there. I'm not sure if it was a good idea. So I will, yeah. I will do it differently, but you can see the idea. I can scale everything there. Only the database is only one instance, which means that probably my performance that I have there, I can improve it, putting more components there. That's one point. The second point, I mentioned that you do that only for the non-critical use cases. So where you want performance, probably you have started with that when rewriting everything. And another thing, there are also some solutions where you can scale the database. If you go to a distributed database there, you can also scale that, and you may have something that is fully scalable. But that's another topic. And if you follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, you have seen that I will work more and more with this part of distributed database. Okay, 30 seconds for questions. Never heard about SQL Translation Framework. Yeah, it's not a third-party tool. It is included with Oracle. It is there in Oracle XC for free. Of course, Oracle didn't build this translation framework to help you to move out of Oracle. The idea is that if you have an application built for something else, let's say DB2, and you want to run the same application and connect to Oracle, then this translation framework can translate some SQL something. So Oracle did it to be more open to other databases, and it works in both ways. And anyway, today, more and more applications we'll go to microservices where you have many databases and probably you want to test one with a commercial database because for several reasons, other ones with open source, many things. Okay, I think we are just in time. Let me just tell me if we have time for more questions. But if you follow me on LinkedIn and you follow me on Twitter, you will see more about that. This is the first time I'm doing this presentation, so it's kind of freestyle, but I will do more on that because I think it can help in some situation. It's not a long-term solution, but it can help to move a few use cases, critical use cases, and have time for all the other things, you know, all the updates of referential tables and all the things that run around your application about the main use case. Clemens, you tell me if there are questions or if we are okay with
I
that.
do not see questions, but I think it's super cool to do.
Let's see if it's
like
still running without any error.
Yeah,
slowly but running. Yeah,
running. And I also like your presentation style here, you know, by developing this on the board.
This is all free. Scalable is a free, a free service that is really nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. Fortunately, we have recorded it.
Cool.
because in that case, we can, you know, see how you developed everything. So really cool.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Paolo, do you want to say something before I stop recording?
No, I think it was a very interesting presentation, and thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.